So welcome everyone, this is Provincetown 365. This is our monthly meeting, our general meeting. These happen generally the second Tuesday of the month at different locations around town. That's for people who are watching at home.
Second Wednesday.
Yes, did I say? What did I say?
Tuesday.
It happens the second Wednesday of the month at different locations around town. If you'd like to offer your space for a Provincetown 365 meeting, send us an email at info@provincetown365.com.
There are two more people coming.
Oh, great.
Sign the sign-up sheet.
Yes, the sign-in sheet and agendas are over there. Camera's rolling. Come on in, make yourself comfortable. Let's go to the
There's coffee to share
Where?
Did you bring coffee?
Oh,
we'll continue the circle around this way.
yes, the camera's here, so that's the.
I'm Mike, by the way. Nice to meet you.
I'm Doug.
Nice to meet you.
And the height of the chair is no indication of status. This used to be the elementary
Clearly.
school.
All right.
So-
When do you go to the bathroom? Your status is really gonna get mixed up.
The boys' room and the girls' room. And everything
love
is
that.
down here.
Yeah.
So I'm Rick Alberg. I do a lot of things for 365, so I'll just kind of facilitate today's meeting. If anyone needs a button, there's still a bunch over there. There's also stickers if you want one to just show that you participate. It's great. People will ask you about it if they see you on the street. It's quite interesting. If we could go around and just do introductions. I already said I'm Rick Alberg. I participate primarily in transportation planning things. I'm on the bike committee in town, so I've been very active in the things that I'll be talking about later.
My name is Jay Gorowicz. I've been on the, it's the transportation subcommittee, which was Shank Painter Road and biking, but separate, now they're merged. So I'm on transportation, and I'm also on what used to be EDC, Economic Development Committee, and there was a Gateway, and now we're both together, so it's Gateway EDC committees. So I'm on those both.
I'm Allison. I own Rue Guest House in town, and I'm on the Outreach and Governance Committee and the Waterfront Gateway Development Committee.
I'm Louise Venden, and I am on the Gateway Economic Development Waterfront Harbor Committee, and I'm very happy to be participating.
Hi, I'm Mike Kelly. I'm new to the group.
Hi, Michael.
Yay!
Thanks for coming out.
Welcome.
I'm Katie Ward. I'm from the Provincetown Banner. Here to serve.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for coming.
Hi.
Are you the new hire?
I am, yeah.
Yay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay. I saw your byline, I was like, that must be the new girl.
Yeah, that's me.
Good job.
Thank
I
you.
saw Ann post something on Facebook. Katie, you should go to this.
Yeah.
I thought, is that this meeting or something else? So, thanks for coming.
I think that may have been my post, actually.
Yes, it was
Which
yours.
we'll talk about.
I'm Doug Dalzell. I'm on community housing as well.
I'm Mike Miller. I'm on the Economic Development New Committee, but I also sit on the Economic Development Committee for the town. So I'm kind of I act as a go-between to make sure we're liaison to make sure we're talking to each other.
I'm Gloria McPherson, I'm the town planner, and I try to float among all of the groups.
I'm Angina Lithcott. I'm on the outreach committee, but I'm also on the housing committee.
I'm Jennifer Cabral, and I was on transportation, but I haven't gone to any meetings, including yesterday's. I'm really sorry, I was gonna go and I didn't go. Anyway, I'm hoping to get more involved.
Great.
Again.
It's good to know.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Over here.
No,
I'm
step
sorry.
back in. So bring you back to Rick. I'm Shira Kavan. I am an owner of Curio More Than Coffee, the coffee shop in town opposite the library. And I'm on the Waterfront, I'll read it straight off the paper. Waterfront Harbor Gateway Economic Development Subgroup of Provincetown 365.
Great. So we'll jump right into to updates from work groups. Does anyone from community housing have anything about? I know there was a meeting last week. Was anyone here able to attend?
We both
Okay,
attended.
great. Does anyone want to?
Well, it was that was my first meeting, so. But we basically went through and talked about getting together as various groups to look at how housing could be adapted on various sites. So there was a discussion about where the police station would go and different opportunities for housing. I guess part of the question was what kind of housing, how much housing, what could the housing committee do to help provide some kind of advice, input to the community, to the town. And so some people within that committee decided to break up and they're gonna work in the future here to try and do some of those studies.
I would like to add that one of the things that Louise Venden, I've heard her say more than once, is something that the Housing Committee, that I think we need to do, and that is to make a list of all public housing, all public spaces, so that we know what resources we have and we don't have. And we also talked a little bit about, is it Not Shop?
Yes, the senior.
We also, their desire to expand. But it's getting clearer and clearer to me that the town is doing a dance around community housing. And that we really need to focus, I think, on what the resources are and then to move forward. Also, Michelle was at the meeting, which was a nice surprise. And people from Provincetown Housing Authority were there also, which was another nice surprise.
There were about 10 people in attendance, so it was a good group.
Yeah.
And then we also had, we touched a bit on the community center site of 460 Bradford. I think, Gloria, I think that's about it, isn't it?
I think that covers
It was kind of getting up to speed, I think, with everyone again, more than anything.
Have you guys looked at yet, or has anybody here looked at yet, David Panicor's housing playbook?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I understand it's, well, if someone could explain to me exactly what it covers.
Everything.
Everything.
Well,
It's
you should get a
huge.
copy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
big,
It's a very
giving out
comprehensive
copies.
inventory of kind of all the tools that town has to
It's online.
do housing
Yeah.
and kind of do housing production. So it's not all that, it's not an action plan, right? It's a playbook. It's kind of like, these are the tools we have, these are things we want to address, but it doesn't go into how we're gonna do that. That's kind of the next
It's just
step.
basically talking about the different groups, like the housing authority.
The different
versus
groups, the different programs, the different kinds of housing. Gloria, I'm sure can explain more.
Yeah, it includes, financial tools that are available to us, including state and federal tax credits for like affordable housing,
Mhm.
what funding sources we have for community housing, which is fairly limited. It also talks about, the zoning regulations that support affordable and community housing, things like that. It's almost like a base
Like an
level
encyclopedia.
understanding of what we currently have, but it's not quite at the point where we're talking about where we're gonna go.
Mhm.
If
So
I
it's
could-
you don't have to read.
Isn't it still a draft? It's still in draft.
If
It's
I
like
could-
if you have a question, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You could just go
Right.
there,
Like
find
a
your
dictionary.
answer.
It's a great
Right.
primer. I mean,
Yeah.
as someone who really knows virtually nothing about the housing issue history of P-Town, since I'm so new here, I sat down and I read that over the course of probably 4 nights, because it's like, don't do it when you're tired. It's gonna put you to sleep. It's really intense.
attended all those
There's an
housing
enormous
summits,
amount
so.
of information in there, and I ended up starting to write notes so I would follow. And there's a lot of jargon, so it's confusing if you don't know, but I find it really helpful to just send David Panagor a message on Facebook and say, what does that mean?
That's good to know about the jargon, because we made a big effort to take that out.
Yeah, and that's what he
Make it
said. He
more,
said,
like,
whenever you
readable.
find it, tell
Let
me.
us know.
Yeah. But it really does give you a very baseline understanding of, frankly, it made it very clear to me why nothing major has happened in a while, because it's so huge. There are so many different categories, there's so many different sources of funding, there's so many different of everything. But it's a great way to start.
Anything else on housing?
So, and we didn't talk
Any
about,
action items?
we didn't talk about this at the community housing meeting, but I do wanna let you guys know that we have, an Urban Land Institute Technical Assistance Panel coming to town on June 8th and 9th. June 8th, there will be an opportunity for community input, in the evening, I wanna say from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Harbor Lounge, so it's gonna be kind of a very informal
Nice.
opportunity, which sometimes is the best way to actually get people talking. There's actually 12 people on this panel, so there's plenty of people to talk to, which means we can accommodate a lot of the public.
What's
So
the
hopefully,
name of it?
Urban Land Institute.
And what are they coming here to do?
They're looking at our housing issues, and I think that this is part of our housing playbook. This is gonna be another way to get some input as to where we should move forward and how we should move forward.
June
Um,
8th and 9th.
June 8th and 9th. So the 8th in the evening at the Harbor Lounge is the opportunity for the public to go and talk to them. They're gonna have interviews the next morning with some key stakeholders, as yet to be determined. And then in the afternoon, they're gonna kind of crunch away and come up with some ideas and everything. And then they're gonna present their ideas at the planning board meeting on Thursday, June 9th. But it'll be early, so starting at 5:30. So that's the second community opportunity to hear what they have to say. So Wednesday the 8th, 5 o'clock, Harbor Lounge. Thursday the 9th, maybe it is 5:30 at the Harbor Lounge too. Thursday the 9th at 5 or 5:30 for the planning board. I guess I'm not clear on those times.
We show up at 5, have a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can't
Warm it up.
hurt to go early.
At the town hall.
Exactly. So hopefully you guys will be able to go and give some input.
Great. Was there a next meeting set up for the housing group?
I had to leave early because I didn't
He
have
was
a
going
meeting.
to send out something for a
Okay.
June meeting, like a survey monkey or a doodle, something like that.
Yeah, another arrival. Mary Beth.
Oh, did someone join while I was not paying attention?
Yes.
Hi, can you just say who you are? and-
I'm
Welcome.
Mary Russell, and I actually represent the Provincetown Fisher Memorials Group.
Okay,
Yay.
welcome, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is nonprofit formation.
Steve's not here.
Steve's not here.
My God,
So-
this is
So
just tiring.
Steve is
Steve
busy.
and Steven Latassenix were the ones who were doing that, and they both opened new restaurants this year, so I think that maybe
For-profit enterprises.
in a few months, when things
Well, we've been waiting
settle
more than a
down.
year. It seems that
It's been
somebody
a year.
that wants to move this
It
forward.
can't be that difficult to get someone to
Exactly.
just do this.
It
It's
just
very important
possibly
that we
can't be.
formalize something.
Are-
They
are
did it
there
over
any
the
other
summer, so they
lawyers?
couldn't do it over the summer,
Are
and
you
now
gonna
they've got
say-
new
Would you like
restaurants and they
to-
can't do it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Louise, do you wanna,
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like you used to be on that kind of group too, weren't you? at
Oh, I
some
was
point?
very early on, before my surgery on my foot.
So, do you wanna pick up the ball with
Yeah,
that,
that's
actually?
fine. I'll
Thank you.
find somebody.
And we can coordinate to
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
happen.
And
I think.
a lot of the work's been done, like Steve has a draft of, bylaws,
Bylaws and-
so maybe if we can just get that from him and.
Katerina's?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we still have, we were just using still the draft mission statement from when we originally formed and all of that, nothing's
Right.
really changed, so. Okay, so I'm gonna put you down on that for next week.
I thought that one of the things we said was that was a priority because there were people that wanted to give us money.
Yeah.
And we can just wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and let the money go away.
Well, it's
Who wants
one-
to give us money?
I
I'm
think,
not
I don't
telling you.
know.
Oh,
I
there
guess
are
you
people
know.
that-
But
It's not
there's-
me.
I know, it's not
think
me.
At least you know someone.
I know
think-
of at least 3 people that want to give money
I'll give you
to
20 bucks
this
for
work. But
Xerox.
we
Yeah, I can
can't
use some money
manage.
for the website.
Yeah.
That makes total
Steve,
sense.
I
So they might
think-
think that maybe somebody else can manage doing something,
Yeah.
and we need to do something.
I think it's, everything we do right now is totally volunteer driven. So it's done by people in their spare time, at their leisure, and, at their priority level.
Which is turned into you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, which is kind of all dropped on my lap, which I'm fine with. I've enjoyed doing this work, but we need to bring in more people, and we need to spread out the workload a little bit. And I would love to be able to take money so that we could hire at least a part-time
Yeah.
staff person.
Yeah, that's what we're
We
talking
joked
about.
at one of the earlier meetings prior to town meeting that when that Provincetown 400 thing was coming up for a vote to hire a part-time staff person,
Yeah.
that someone should stand up and change it to Provincetown 665.
Right.
Because, we were here first. But, that was.
And you can do it because it's a lower number, so it would have been approved.
Yeah,
You can't make
so-
it higher.
But that
But
person,
it was good too to see, what does a nonprofit that's coordinating a lot of activities, what do they need financially for a part-time person, and they put that at around $50,000 for a part-time person. So I think, thinking about that in terms of what we'll want to do going forward.
Even if we
So
could
that's-
hire one
That's
day a
actually
week.
for an executive director, and ultimately it's
Right.
gonna be
For
going
some-
to full-time, and part of their responsibility is fundraising. So it might be
Yeah.
a little bit more
high.
involved
A
than
little high.
what we're gonna have for Provincetown 365,
So at least
initially.
And it's
ballpark.
funded by
If-
VSP, so it's not.
If we could get 8 hours a week, even of that person's time, or certainly somebody with,
Or even if it's
income
a,
demands.
or even if it's a volunteer
An intern
who,
or something.
Yeah.
who says they will work X number of hours a week to do these tasks, and they will get, I mean, we don't necessarily have to hire a position,
Yeah.
but have to have like a stipend
Yes.
available, because I have a feeling, I mean, this is, I don't know if this is appropriate, I mean, it just seems like, when we first met as a group, we talked about a lot of these ideas that we had were sort of the long, that we had to be in the marathon,
Mhm.
because these are all long-range goals, and how to bite them off into little pieces. But I think it's tricky, because as we all get busy, people go away in the winter, and then they work all summer. So you wind up kind of having this, discontinuity with our own members. It's hard to feel like what movement is happening on any of these fronts.
Mhm.
Of course, it seems like, transportation's, always got some
Transportation's
tangibles.
awesome.
Always got tangible stuff.
We deliver.
That's why I liked it in the beginning, yeah.
Transportation.
Transportation, we've got
Doing a lot.
deliverables.
Yeah.
But I think too, it's because some things are short-term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feasible and short-term, some things
Right.
are, waterfront stuff is gonna take,
Right.
a long
Years and
time.
years.
But I agree with you in terms of continuity, and that's really why I jumped in, because I felt
Yeah.
like we need to maintain some continuity over time as things change and people's schedules come and go.
Yeah.
But I think forming the organization and electing a board of directors and all of those steps will help us
Will help it.
to get a little more organized. As much as I
Anchor
think
it.
in the beginning, we didn't want to be organized, and we wanted to just be kind of individual activists. we've
Well, that's
gotten-
back when we had 50 people at each meeting.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point where there's so much interest from the community
Yes.
about things that are going on that we need to structure
Yeah.
a little more. And like Jay and I had a conversation yesterday about how do you get more people involved? You have to have things for them to do.
Yep.
And we need
Right.
like lists of tasks that need to be accomplished and, kind of start metering out things. So people can feel like they've contributed and had some of their own personal achievements working with the group. So we'll table that until next time, but if Louise can follow up on kind of where we need to go for the next steps, I think that'd be great. So no next meeting for that group. We'll look for an update next month. Cool. Outreach and governance hasn't met. We're kind of waiting for the other groups to meet so that we can figure out what the next big outreach projects are. Parking and transit has done a lot.
Want me to do some of it, you do some of it?
Yeah,
Okay, so the showers are going down, depending on weather, on Shank Painter, somewhere around May 15th-ish.
Yay!
Yes, so that was approved at the spring transit committee meeting. It was basically exactly the same thing that we presented in the fall, presented
Can
it
you
again.
define Sharon?
Okay, yeah, so shower,
I'll pass around the flyer.
Yes.
We're making this into like a rack card type thing. It's gonna be a postcard. It's two-sided. It's gonna, I think we found some help for funding to pay for it.
and we'll be handing them out at all the bike shops, at Stop and Shop. Frankly, I'm just gonna wave cars down on Shank Painter as I stand there and just hand them to people, people at Province Landing, at the Park. Because I live right there, so it's easy for me to just distribute it to all those people. And I know most of the business owners there were really excited about this as well, so, because they were all very much in support of it when I spoke to them in the fall. So basically the Sharrows are a way to tell bikers and car drivers that bikes belong in the road with everyone else. That they're in places where there's no room for a bike lane, whether the road is too narrow or there's obstructions or the concrete is not sufficiently smooth. Bikes are supposed to, by Massachusetts law, be in traffic with cars, and cars are supposed to be aware of that. So a Sharrow basically reminds the drivers and the bikers, this is where you're supposed to be. Get off of the soft shoulder where the pedestrians are walking with their pets. Because we do have Park there, and there are people who are constantly walking up and down Shank Painter. And not in the Sharrows. Don't walk in the Sharrows. Please don't walk in the Sharrows.
Don't walk in the shadow.
Yeah.
Don't bike in the
So
pedestrian
we are
way.
actually getting dedicated bike lanes on the portions of Shank-Painter where there is room for it. Basically on the, sorry? It's most of Shank-Painter gets bike lanes already. This is all interim stuff until the Complete Streets project kicks in over time, and Rick will talk about that, I guess, more. And then when Shank-Painter is completely redone, then we're hoping there'll actually be dedicated bike lanes across the full length of Shank-Painter. But for now, this will be a huge step forward for those of us who live in that area in terms of safety and everyone knowing where they're supposed to be.
Shared lane plus arrow.
Yes.
Okay, that could be the first thing we say. I'm like, where the hell does word come from? Okay.
Yes, exactly, and
By
that's
the way.
a common question.
I don't know if you know, Jay, but there is now another bike rental place opposite 141 Market, new.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Brand
yeah.
took over, right,
Mhm.
brand new, it
Yes,
took over
that's-
Provincetown, Florida.
That's
Yes.
Mike Riley, the son of Mike
Oh,
Riley.
is it?
Yes, who owns the Duarte complex. So, yeah.
So that's what's happening. So that's Shank-Painter and Conwell are also getting, Conwell's also getting the Sharrows at the same time. And that's it for Sharrows. Do you want to talk about bike?
Sure, bike racks.
You
Made
know
a lot
much
of,
more about
a
that.
lot of progress on bike racks.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
Good job.
Congrats.
went before FinCom with a way too complex presentation that I just kind of did a brain dump into PowerPoint, and I was glad that I did because they asked all the questions that were answered by that deck. And it was really good. They were really responsive. It was great. I realized I know 4 people who were on the finance committee, so I think that helps. That they were comfortable talking to me, and I was
You're
comfortable
comfortable
talking to
talking
them.
to anybody.
Well, I'm not. I don't feel when I know I'm on
They like to
camera.
talk.
I get very. I tend
We all
to
do.
misstep. So I felt like I did a good presentation. We went on for about a half an hour. Louise is a member of FinCom, by the way, and they approved the $2,500 that we were asking for. The bike committee also put about just over $2,500. So we're getting that money together. And then, of course, the day after that, all sorts of thrill. I called the vendor to get a quote, and they send me the updated quote, and it's another $830
Yeah.
due to shipping costs.
Oh,
So,
Where are
so
they coming from?
it'll either come out of the bike committee budget or we might go and ask the finance committee for another.
Where are the
$830.
racks coming
They're
from?
coming from Wisconsin. They're made by
Oh.
Saris.
There we
So,
go.
and what it
Road trip.
the interesting thing.
My state.
Shout
Yeah.
out Louise.
And the interesting
Road
thing
trip,
for
we're all
me
gonna stay at Louise's house.
was that we seem to get a municipal discount because it's the town that's buying it,
Right,
It's a government
right.
price instead of a retail price. But when you add in the shipping cost,
Same thing.
it's almost the same as retail. So I was a little, so anyway, so the bike committee met today, and one of the members is gonna go and get some quotes from the bike shops around town for similar racks. And I actually reached out to the 2 vendors that the Cape Cod Commission
There you go.
is using for their bike rack program to get quotes on similar racks. None of them carry the same manufacturer, which is why we were going direct, because we already have one of those, we like it, it works. So we wanted to stick with
What style
something
is
that's the same. It's the same one that we use at the library, the inverted
Oh,
view
the-
on the channels.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's where we are with that. It's a 3-week lead time. If we do end up going with the manufacturer, it's a 3-week lead time, and then DPW will install at their leisure.
I don't know if you ever checked, but in Providence, Rhode Island, there's a nonprofit called Ironworks or Steelworks or whatever. And it's a nonprofit that makes bike racks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did get in touch with
Yeah.
them, I want to say almost a year ago.
Yeah, someone mentioned that before.
Yeah, it might have been you.
Yeah.
And
And they make really beautiful artistic
yeah,
racks. Not that,
they're really very focused on Providence, though. They're not
Yeah.
really exporting, at least not on the scale that we're looking
Okay.
for.
Cool.
So, and the
How
reason,
many?
we're looking for 6 racks that work for 10 bikes each, so it's 60. It's not the full, it's not the whatever we went to the selectmen with last fall, which was much more, but it's a huge step forward. So, and the plan that we've kind of developed is, adding 100 or so every year for the next couple of seasons.
I just want to commend you on the presentation you made. You may have thought that it was complicated, but I think that it did address all the issues, and the finance committee is very happy to get these kinds of, multi-page presentations with pictures and all of that, that we can address. And I think it also it shows that Provincetown 365, because you're identified with it, is doing some homework and being a part of a lot of important efforts here, and the bike one being, of course, a major one. And I think it really provided a good basis for any future recommendation or request you might make, so.
Yeah.
The
Thank
beauty
you
of
very
all of
much.
this, besides the fact that you're doing an awesome job, is that this all kind of came out of that one town meeting where they had the article to stop, and this will be a little background for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So there's an article about not about making it a ticketable offense or something to lock your bike to, I guess, a handicap
It
sign,
was a
any
street
street
sign.
sign,
Street
street
sign.
signs,
Street
yeah.
sign poles on
And,
sidewalks, yeah.
and everybody voted it down, like, because they didn't want to have all that, bureaucracy attached to bike culture.
And who
When
presented
there's
that
no
article?
other place to park them.
Oh, was the bike
That was me,
committee?
that was me.
Oh, really?
That was the first time I ever had to
Oh, was
get
it your
up
first
in-
one?
My first time up in front of town meeting, I was terrified, and I had an article to present that I wasn't involved in developing at all, so.
I've done that before.
It was very, and I led with that when I was talking to the finance
Yeah.
committee, because, there's a history. That's part of what's driving me too with these bike wrecks, I'm like, okay,
Right.
people might remember that I was standing up there, so I want to be part of the solution, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I stood up and spoke
Oh, yeah.
against it.
You and John Dowd are the ones I remember most.
We were like,
vividly.
yeah, that's great. But then we came to the meeting, and it was like, it seems like what we need are some bike racks.
Right, well, and then you
so-
took the initiative to do
No,
to do the tour,
it's
and,
so great.
and you and Gloria and others, kind of identifying the locations, and.
We
it's
still have
been-
that list?
Oh, yeah, we have
I
maps,
have
we
it
have
all
this,
mapped
we
out.
have,
Oh, great.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
lots.
We have a road map, basically, well, not a parking map for the future.
Yeah,
Uh,
to-
So for the
Where
next
else?
60 bike
Yes.
racks.
yes, for the
Yeah.
next,
We'll
to
just
get
keep
us.
going back to the transportation committee and asking for more and more
Yeah.
and more and
Yeah,
more.
and it essentially gets us from what was 250 bike racks, 250 bike parking spaces, up to 650 within, I'd say, 2 years.
Excellent.
And we also identified, and it was helpful to hear the finance committee talking about this, to go for CPC funding, which is the Community Preservation Committee's
yeah.
Community Preservation Act funds, which allocates 10% for open space and recreation. And that doesn't,
Great
unless there's a
idea.
big land
Yeah.
acquisition, that doesn't tend to go anywhere. So I think for.
This is such a win, because it's one of those semi-long range things, it's shorter range than, say, community housing. But,
Sure.
that you followed up on it, and then there's a plan for the next,
Yeah.
like, 10 years, really, because
Really nice
Two.
job.
once I get rid of all the cars.
So again, that's more on bike racks than I wanted to talk about tonight, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that it's moving forward. We'll be seeing them probably in June, and then,
It's a big feather in our cap right now.
yeah, and I kind of want to stick Provincetown 365 stickers on them all.
Yeah.
We'll do whatever we do
Well,
when we
that's
get there.
another one I just think that I would like to commend you for, and
Thank
that is that you've been outstanding in making mention of P 365 when you have done anything with media, and I really, really appreciate that.
And for our friend from the banner, there's a bunch of articles that Peter Brown wrote from the
Oh,
previous
okay.
thing, where I've talked to him about bike things, so there's some background there. Was there anything else on bike? What else is on the agenda?
Next meeting.
Just
Like
the
racks.
next meeting,
Okay, we
yeah.
set up a meeting, do you know what the date was? It's gonna be
No,
the
it's
second
my phone.
Tuesday, it's gonna be the day before this meeting, every
Yes,
month, at 6
yes.
o'clock, at a coffee shop or
To be
George's
determined.
or somewhere, somewhere not town hall, that's hopefully outside if it's a nice day like today. So, if anyone wants to join the work group, get in touch with us, and we have a group on Facebook where we post documents and kind of meetings and things like that, so that people
Nice.
can
What
keep up to
is
date.
that group on Facebook?
Parking and,
It's P365 Parking and Transportation.
I think it's a closed group, so they need to be invited.
It is, so if you want to be involved, just let me know and I'll.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more about it,
The next thing that we're working on is,
and then I'll decide.
the next thing that we're starting to work on is also the complete streets policies. It's in draft form and we're sort of reading through it now, and then what happens next with that, Gloria?
Well, we have
forgot.
to do an educational meeting with the Board of Selectmen, we
Right,
have to go back
yes.
to various boards who've already gotten an introduction to it by Rick,
Right,
to hopefully get them to actually vote on it, and then ultimately the Board of Selectmen has to adopt the policy.
right.
So I would say it's more than a draft, I would say it's a pretty complete policy,
Mhm.
barring any changes that the Board of Selectmen might want.
I don't know if Paul Sherman is still in the group, but back when I used to go to the meetings, We did the limo liner thing. Does anybody
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what came up with? I mean, I know that they did it and I know that it was booked.
Yeah,
We
we
talked
talked
about
about
that
it
last
briefly
night, and-
last night, and I think
we were
we
gonna
need
get in
to.
touch with Paul and see.
Cause that guy, I mean, the guy from,
Mike
Yeah.
Glasgow. So as it turns out, they were booked for the second 2 weeks in October. So remember they were gonna do it like the remaining 2 weekends in October after
Women's
the
Week.
ferry service ended,
Mhm.
mid-October. And then the interesting thing was, without telling any of us, Mike did a third week and he said, oh, we hardly got anyone on it. And I said,
oh,
well,
well,
because
because
nobody
nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
So,
We were putting money in his freaking pockets.
I
That's his
know, I
problem.
know. So I think that
Don't
he,
quote that.
so I
Actually, by the way,
Yeah.
because that coincides, actually, that, the first 2 weeks would have taken you through Women's Week? Is that right?
It was through Halloween.
Oh, it's through Halloween.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Halloween's
Okay.
And
the
then
big
he ended up
weekend.
doing an
Oh,
additional week
into
in
November,
November
okay, fine.
But
that
didn't tell us.
nobody knew about. And he said, wow, I only had like 2 people on it. And I was like, well, I mean,
We
Yeah.
didn't have us out on the
Yeah,
community space and
exactly.
putting the word
so
out.
I think it's
Yeah.
really important to reach out to Mike. And that's why we were talking about having
Yeah.
Paul do it, because he was the primary person.
He was.
He's
that
around, he's
spoke with
back,
Mike.
he's been back a couple weeks.
If
think
it,
they're
if it
finishing up
happens
their
again for this fall, I know for sure that Fantasia Fair people who come to town in their hundreds would love to know how to get
So
here.
I
Yeah.
think that my understanding was that he wanted to continue to do the 2 at the end of October. And I've been kind of pushing him and saying, why don't you try a couple additional weeks in November too, but just let us know about it in advance so
Do
that,
Thanksgiving.
guest houses know
Yes.
about it.
Yes,
and-
yes.
Do
Well, it's
Thanksgiving,
tricky because
Christmas.
the way he
well,
pitched
and-
it,
And First
And
Light.
New Year's.
the way he
Yeah.
pitched it was that if it seemed like a popular thing and it made him money, that he would make the jump to buy a liner, because right now
Exactly.
he's leasing one, so he's not making as much of a profit off of it. But the thing is we got the 2 weekends, like the experiment was a success,
Right,
and so it's like, okay, buy the liner. But so we have to talk to him.
we do.
Paul,
We have
Paul's
to,
good. He's
yeah, we have
diplomatic.
to.
First Light would have been successful too.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
First Light would have been
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, but even just regular, I mean, there are people who are going into Boston for
All the
whatever
time.
set of reasons who do not want to drive their
I
car.
don't know, why
That's
couldn't
right.
you do it in the summertime?
Exactly.
You could do it in the summer, the whole idea for me was to do it all the time, because, people will do it.
Yes.
Exactly, but I'm sure, and these theme weeks are putting out to their people how to get into town.
Right.
Women's Week, Fantasia Fair, Bear Week, all of it, that's gotta be a component.
Yeah, it's something that
Absolutely.
the
Much better than the bus
visitors
service,
board
which
is-
has got to be aware of, and all the various groups that
Yeah.
have contact with all the company, all the businesses in town, they're the ones who need to be told.
Yeah.
If you just bring a bus into town and no one knows about it, it's kind of a waste of time.
We got it all basically through Facebook. I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
that's how we generated all
Well,
the
and he
interest.
also advertised on his website.
He did, and he
everything.
gave it out to ferry people.
Yeah.
And there was a
Before
press
they shut
release
down.
and,
He
you
did
know,
some stuff.
there was
I
there
think
was
he
quite
was
a,
wanting
quite a
to
bit.
try to see what would happen with the demand if we didn't create it.
Yeah, okay.
And it
That's
was a
a mistake.
failure.
That's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
mistake.
yeah, no.
No, it's a failure of
It's too
advertising.
new,
Yeah.
it's too
Yeah,
new
It
a
was a failure of
concept.
advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
needs to be a
mean,
part
3
of
years
it.
from now, he won't need our help, but, for this
Right.
coming winter, he's still gonna absolutely need as much help as he can get.
Exactly.
Because
Right.
we all want that bus to
That's
be
us.
filled
Yeah.
every single time.
So Rick, are you gonna reach out to Paul?
I will
about
reach out to
contact
Paul.
for Mike, and
Because
if
what-
he is unable or too busy or whatever, Jen, would you like to take this up?
Okay. Oh, yes.
But in a tactful way.
You write
I'll
that
give you
down, Lori.
tactful. He and I had a good conversation.
Good,
It's like
good.
the Hampton Jitney, which is
Yeah.
just
Oh my
a
God.
regular part of
Right.
how people get in and out of Long Island.
Yeah, because it would be, I wanted to get in touch with Paul anyway to write a short blurb for the website about that as a completed project, so that we can
Yeah.
document one of those
That'd be
successes
great.
from last year.
Definitely.
And same thing with They Also Face the Sea, get that on the website, 'cause right now
Mhm.
there's links to banner articles and things like that, but there's nothing.
Have you all seen the video?
No.
Oh, no, but
I
that's the
have-
other thing I want to
yeah,
ask
and
you
that too, I
about.
have the
It
video.
can't possibly
got-
be finished.
Well,
Well, I have
It's not.
the unfinished version.
Oh, yeah, cause the,
Is this a day?
yeah, we have the,
Yeah.
yeah, we had the, they also face the sea part, but we never did the interviews with,
and Dina and
yeah, I
a
can't
number of other
remember,
people.
Yeah, I have the beautiful
They're like-
voiceover section that you do, Jennifer. It is just tear-jerking.
Yeah.
And I added closed captions to it, so that
Oh, you
people
did?
can watch it.
Oh,
We
that's
put it
nice.
online, but David and I haven't connected to, I didn't want to post something online that's not finish.
Well, I mean, David's life has been rather tumultuous, but I think things have settled down quite a bit for him now, so it might be a good time to reach out to him, I guess.
Okay, and I was playing it at the Year Rounders Festival on my
That's
laptop,
right, okay.
so that's where some people did see it, but yeah, we haven't released it generally yet. So it might be good to do it like around the Portuguese festival time where.
And I think it would be great for us at a meeting to see it, because it's, you know,
Yes.
like some, because I think one thing that's been missing is, like the celebration of successes.
Yes, absolutely.
Because, you know, there's always gonna be crap to do. But if we
Absolutely.
don't take a moment and really enjoy when we've accomplished something like the bike racks,
Mhm.
you know, then that moment's gone, because it'll be old news.
Comes and goes in a flash.
Yeah.
Great, so that's it for parking and transportation and formerly Champagne Road.
Yeah, we
Um,
should just change the name to parking and
Yeah, it's mostly, it's parking and transportation.
Right.
At some point, we'll update the website with that too. So on to, what I have down is waterfront gateway development, but I'll let someone else.
You've clearly missed a.
I started
3 or 4
to,
words.
I started to initialize it WHGED because.
So waterfront harbor gateway development? And-
Wa-
That's a lot of-
Waterfront Harbor Gateway Economic Development Subgroup.
I like the term work group too.
Yeah.
Work group.
We're supposed to be work groups.
That is
We are work
fine.
groups.
Work group, not subgroup.
Yeah,
So who from the
I
harbor group?
am.
all right.
I was the note taker for our meeting, which happened a week ago yesterday at East End Market. A lot of people who were at the meeting are here. All right, you guys, shout out. Very nice. We had 15 people.
Yay.
Free wine and Little Eats was. I think there was some
When's that next meeting?
aspect of part two. Yeah, East End Market was wonderful in hosting us. And what I'm gonna do is just, because it was a lengthy 5-page set of notes, but what I'm gonna just do is quickly go through what the discussion headlines were, and we have people here who were active in all of the discussions. Jay, Michael, Mary, Louise, Ally. So, you know, Michael, I said your right twice, and Lori was there. So I don't have to speak for them, but I will tell you what we discussed. We started with a discussion that was prompted by Jay and David Garden about 3D vertical ocean farming, economic development potential in town. And it was a very interesting discussion that included Rich Delaney from the Center for Coastal Studies and Rex McKinsey from the Pier. And also Ginny Binder, who serves on the Pier Corp. It was a very useful discussion. Probably the biggest takeaway from it was that the current company that Jay and David were researching, which is called, is it Greenwave, is that
Yes.
right? Greenwave is not giving new pilot help to any further projects at the moment. They are kind of on hold. I think they've got 2 pilot projects, one on Long Island, off the Long Island Sound in Long Island, and one off Long Island Sound, I guess, in Connecticut. But they are not looking to set up a pilot here. So the thing to do would be to work with Rich Delaney, who assures us that the ADA, the aquaculture development area in and around Provincetown is whale safe, because there was a concern that it would conflict with whale watching, ecology, etc., but that those areas are whale safe. And to sort of play up the whole question of harbor to table, that is, you know, farm to table is very commonly spoken of now, that harbor to table or dock to dish, that would be a concept.
That'd be amazing, because we
that
don't
we
have
should
any like local
I'd like to see
stuff.
this
in the-
start to do that. And not only, and both Jay and David spoke not only about the potential scallop farming, mussels farming, whatever would happen that would include seafood, but also algae, which is, you know, blue-green algae commonly used in health food stores or in other ways, and also seaweed, the potential for harvesting seaweed for use in Asian cooking, any other kind of cooking, and sushi. So, so there is potentially a very big economic development piece there, but it is, again, several years out. So I'm glad about the bike racks too, because, you know, short-term wins, long-term wins, they're all good. Mary Ratzel mentioned also that that beyond just working on the vertical line aquaculture, that we should be engaging much more with our fishermen, because the fishermen are doing, if I don't get it right, Mary, jump right in, are doing a split year. They are fishing when they're not running charters. They're running charters in the busy time of the year, many of them. Is that correct?
Just as a sentence, part of what we want to do is focus and education for the town in terms of how a fisherman actually works. So it's not like a fisherman is working one or the other. A fisherman is diversifying throughout the year in many different types of fishery. He might be shell fishing as well as lobstering, as well as crewing, as well as captaining. He might be in Provincetown, he might be in Gloucester, he might be in Maryland. So instead, we can't think of fishermen as 9-to-5 jobs.
Correct. And actually, to carry on from Mary, she brought to light a really exciting event that will be a short-term win for us. That's going to happen, that will be a short-term win for her group, for the fishermen, but also could potentially be for Provincetown 365, because something is coming in October, the first weekend in October, called the Seafood Throwdown. And it is, the first one will happen in Providence, and that will be, actually, I put in a link to that, I thought, I don't see it, but that is all up and down the East Coast, and Provincetown will be the final seafood throwdown location for the season, and that is huge to be
What
the
date is
finale,
that?
and that's going to be the
The
first
first,
weekend in October.
Yay, you
Correct?
got the
So
good date.
October 1, 2 is what we're talking about. So
Wow.
1st of October is going to be this seafood throwdown, and it's sort of a la a Food Network style. Bring it off the boat, have local people cook it, do it in a food festival style on the pier possibly, and then have folks consume it. And and make a whole day out of that, obviously, leading up to the moment of the tasting. You do a whole day's worth of education, a whole day's worth of outreach, a whole day's worth of maybe music, who knows?
Yeah, I'm working.
So Mary Beth did say that she's looking for volunteers from this group, from outside the group. You know, it's like I said in my notes, an all hands on deck opportunity, literally. And that the Fishermen's Memorial Foundation is meeting the first Wednesday of each month, so no conflict with this, at 6 o'clock at the Knights of Columbus Hall. So if anyone would like to attend the Fishermen's Memorial Foundation meetings, that is a particular way to go.
What day is that?
That is the first Wednesday, so Mary, your next
Yeah,
meeting
actually, I
will
was
be?
gonna say, if anyone is interested, what we're actually trying to do is we formed a subcommittee for the seafood throwdown. And that, I think we have selected 2 chefs thus far, okay? But a site location, we're still really looking for. So anything in terms of help in that respect, it also would include whoever's doing the farmer's market, we have to put the farmer's market together with it. So there's a lot of, anybody who wants to get involved in something that could be fun. The actual meeting, I don't know if you guys are interested or not, but Angela Sanfilippo from Gloucester will be coming to our next Provincetown Fishermen's Memorial meeting to actually explain the whole idea of how working waterfronts and what we're all about working with the fishermen. And the seafood throwdowns are actually part of something called the Northwest Atlantic Marine Alliance.
Mhm.
So they're very much into the community supported fisheries groups, direct market buying, and it's definitely what you're talking about. Dock to Dish is a product of the Northwest Atlantic Marine Alliance. So it's let's get involved with seafood as part of our project.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, I'll save it.
Sign in, please.
I give this to you.
Here?
I did say to sign in.
It's
I
going-
have it
oh.
now. Thank
Can
you.
I just, it really strikes me that this is one thing that we could really use to put ourselves on the map as well, is to do a video of exactly what you're talking about in terms of we could make ourselves representative of and outreach to the committee about what really is happening with fishermen. Everybody talks about, oh, you know, the dwindling fishing industry. To do a video that really would include that piece of it, which is, here's how they really do their jobs, and then to be able to use that as a capstone, the Dock to Dish event. It would be the kind of thing that nobody else is gonna do, it seems to me. And if we could, that's another reason for us to raise some money, so that we can afford to have somebody do this.
If you guys are actually interested in that too, I can actually, like, Sean who runs Dock to Dish, I could actually ask him if he can there. The slow fish people who ran the slow food network down in New Orleans are also part of that whole CSF throwdown thing. So depending on how much you want to get involved in this, but what Louise is saying that I think is really important is Provincetown does not have a working waterfront committee, as in other towns do. Booth Bay does, I mean, I think I posted, Booth Bay's almost died. Gloucester has one, New Bedford has one, Situate has one.
Are they town committees?
They're
Or are
working,
they nonprofits? Like,
Are they
like,
separate?
some of them are actually town committees, some of them are actually ancillary with fishing groups and or whatever, but there's a large group of associated advocacy issues that are involved. I mean, the biggest one being New Bedford's Working Waterfront.
What's the group that just, is it called Go Fish?
Pro-fish.
Pro Fish.
Pro-fish.
Oh, Go Fish is such a better name. I wish I'd been in the room.
It's a card game.
No, I was gonna say, Pro-fish is,
Pro-fish
Pro-fish
is
is
Provincetown,
yours, is the Provincetown Fishermen's Association, which
It's
has been
Pro-fish.
defunct
Yeah.
for many, many years.
It's
But I think with the new discussions that we've had about bringing some, you know, issues to light with fishermen on the pier or whatever, that they are now, they just gave $6,500 towards the new memorial. And we have agreed to sort of work with them in education
So
and
they're kinda coming
outreach.
back to
They
life?
will be part of the seafood throwdown. They will
That's
be
great.
providing our fish.
All more
Yeah.
reason why we could really provide an additional vehicle for letting people know about it, because as I said, really don't think people know
No.
anymore. It is disappeared.
It's a
And
secret.
there was an article in the Banner or the Times, I'm not sure which one it was, about one of the fishermen and talking
Bo.
about that.
It was
Yeah, Bo.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and his
Probably-
perspective was just 180 degrees from what I hear around town.
Yes.
You know, he was
Yes.
so positive,
see,
and
how
it was really interesting to
There's
see that
fewer
perspective.
fishermen, but they're busy.
Yeah.
But I
they're-
was gonna say, the thing is, I think you guys are so key to the fact that the fishermen felt that there wasn't a lot of attention put on them. Do you know what I'm saying? So they don't really feel that they had a collective, but now that there's more community support for what fishermen are doing down on the pier, it's actually helping them to do more organizing in terms of what they really feel they need from the community for advocacy.
That's great.
That's excellent.
That's really amazing.
And while we're on the waterfront, oh, I'm
Can I
sorry.
add one more thing? So if you're still looking for a location, for the seafood throwdown, I know that Chuck Legassi has been opening up that end building at the end of Fisherman's Wharf for community uses this year. So he would be a good person to contact.
That's one.
That would be perfect.
It would be ideal,
Well, I have,
actually.
the other things I've heard is, the Crown and Anchor, the site of the old reliable fish house, which I think is in the.
Condemned, I think.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know,
that's
that thing is.
In progress. That's
I'm
we want to know
hearing
about
very
fundraiser.
good.
It would be very atmospheric.
It needs a waterfront location.
Fisherman's Wharf would be a really
Perfect.
ideal location,
Actually,
actually.
no-
And he specifically wants to have more community-based events there, specifically this year,
Yep.
because there are so many opportunities. I think he only has 5 scheduled so far.
Maybe you
Um,
can tell me how to get in touch with him. Okay.
It would be ideal, because that pier would be obviously
Right.
ideal for every, all
Right.
sorts of, used to be, it's Fisherman's Wharf,
Yeah.
obviously. But if that doesn't work out, because those things often don't, you might think about Astrid over at Pepe's, because they closed right after, Labor Day, but she's got that whole space, and if they don't
Right.
shut off the water or
Yep.
anything, and she loves community stuff, and you get her at the right cocktail hour,
Mhm.
she'd probably say yes.
Maybe I can meet.
How many cocktails?
Yeah.
Where's the backup with leather?
Still cheaper than that.
Mary,
Was work a big
quick question, what's the
place?
best way for people to get in touch with?
Actually,
This is kind of for
I'll
the
give you
audience
my
at home.
email. It's MERITREE@gmail. Actually, I'm on that list that you
Yeah.
guys all got,
Okay,
so.
okay. So is there a web presence? Is there a Facebook page or anything? I'm just thinking about people who are watching this at home.
Are you filming this?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Jesus, you gotta say that.
If anyone
That's a
I would say
camera?
this, here's the What a seafood throwdown is.
So good about spotting a
Then
camera.
you should go to the Northwest Atlantic Marine Alliance, it's
The Northwest-
namanet.org,
Okay.
okay?
Yes,
There's a very extensive list in terms of what the Northwest Atlantic Marine
Yes,
Alliance
there
is,
Okay, great.
what seafood throwdowns are, and if anyone else wants contacts for Dr. Dish or whatever, I would be happy to get you in touch with Shane Tobias.
Okay, great.
Thank
Yeah, I'll
you.
put those links on the.
No, Dr. Dish started as CSFs in Montauk, but now it's actually in Europe now.
Wonderful.
so I'm just gonna quickly go through, because it's, no, these were all related to my notes, in fact, Gloria jumped right ahead, so that's perfect. And while we're on the waterfront, the Provincetown Film Society also attended the meeting last week. They were saying that they were finding it a little bit of a hurdle to try to get in touch with with folks running charters, water charters, to book a specialized fishing event for their attendees. And they actually, Rex McKinsey spoke with Christine Walker, and they are working on getting that a little bit better organized, because Rex felt that as somebody who's working with the fishermen daily, knows them better, rather than Christine and Jeffrey Sass, who were the attendees at our meeting, walking up and saying, hi, don't know a thing about fishing, to be able to bridge that gap between the Film Society and the fishing community, that there might be a good way to do that through Rex. There was an awful lot of fantastic networking that was happening at that meeting, and it just went, it carried around the table in such a great way. It just was really, it was terrific. So Gloria was there. I don't know if, Gloria, do you want to speak your own part about Iceland and other things, or?
You can do a summary.
Okay. Okay, I'll give Gloria a break. She speaks all day. She reported that she and her daughter had been on vacation in Iceland, and that while there, she met with an ambassador. Is that correct?
The
Gloria?
ambassador.
The ambassador. He is the
The ambassador from the U.S. to the.
ambassador from the
to
U.S.
Iceland.
Okay, very good. That's
And also
great.
the deputy chief of mission, and we talked about, I might as well go on.
Go
We
ahead.
talked about establishing
Please,
a
stay
sister
for
city
it.
relationship between Provincetown and Husavik, which is on the northern coast of Iceland. There are a lot of similarities between the two towns.
A lot of gays out there.
Actually, it's a really like gay-friendly country in general. When they do their Pride Week, literally 1/3 of the population of the entire country is in Reykjavik.
Oh, wow.
So that's huge.
15 people.
16 with a stroller.
What I'm gonna just jump in before Gloria goes on to tell you that it is possible to find pictures of Husavik online, beautiful pictures of what the place is like.
I'm
It
sure it's
will-
gorgeous,
It will
yeah.
absolutely remind you of Provincetown. So you should look online, for the folks at home, for anyone here, at Husavik, Husavik, Iceland. And you will be able to see what they have wonderful, in English and in Icelandic, if you read Icelandic, to read about what this town is and what it's all about.
Maybe they'll put our affordable housing there.
But there are a lot of good links for that. And one of the things we're looking at is the fact that Provincetown's an old whaling town that's now a whale watching community, and in Husavik they're kind of making that switch. Like the whale watching is becoming more popular, but there's still a whaling community, although it's kind of dwindling at this point. And they're using new technology for their whale watching vessels that would be beneficial for us to see, mainly silent boats that are run by electricity, which is much better for marine mammals. And there was talk with the ambassador about bringing a ship over here. He was game, I was game, but who knows if it's going to happen. It seemed like a good idea at this level, but when it actually comes down
How
to
much
it.
glue vine you're drinking.
So that's that. In
And,
a nutshell, I'm hoping to get back in September. The town manager's on board with it too. We have to get the board of selectmen on board also.
Right.
Cool.
The other thing, just to wrap up on Husavik, but speak of another thing that Gloria mentioned that I thought was terrific. Rich Delaney from the Center for Coastal Studies commented that they have already worked with
Yes.
Husavic, so there is already a relationship, which is wonderful. They work with them on strandings and on whale study, and that he would like to talk more with Gloria about the Husavic connection and Center for Coastal
Is that
Studies.
why you went to Iceland to forge this, this bond? She's always thinking of us.
Business
I wish you got a
expense.
Paris, but.
And so in addition, Gloria mentioned that one of the things that the planning commission is doing over this summer is having an intern working in the planning commission to write a white paper about how Falmouth got the,
Nope. Okay,
No, wrong
let's
place.
backtrack.
Not
Okay.
Falmouth?
So it's not the planning board, it's me.
I'm sorry,
Taking out-
not the planning board, the
taking-
commission,
Department.
the department.
Oh, yeah, so I'm taking on an intern to have them do some research about Bridgewater State and how they now have a campus in Yarmouth.
Yarmouth.
So I have a lot of
Yarmouth.
questions about how it happened, whether they draw their
Satellite?
faculty. Yeah, well, where do they draw their faculty from? Is it from the area? Do they bring them and provide housing? Where do their students come from? Like all of these issues, I basically want a case study done on how that happened and how we can, learn from that and potentially use that to bring something comparable to Provincetown.
So for anybody who received my notes, please know there is a correction due because I said Falmouth and it's Yarmouth.
It's Yarmouth.
I
So
get
my
those
fault.
mixed up all the time.
Yarmouth, much closer.
Yeah.
Falmouth, great Indian food. Anyway.
I don't even know where either one of them is.
There was also extensive discussion, and because Michael is here, he might want to discuss it himself. There was this extensive discussion of the Economic Development Committee grants program in town and how well that went. And also repairing what is perceived as the broken process that is somewhat stopping economic development in town because of a lack of communication among committees in town, historic district, planning committee, other committees that somehow, that hold, that wield power in the process, but unfortunately do not communicate together very well. So, Michael, I'm gonna let you define.
Sure, I think everybody knows that the grants went out, the first round of micro grants. There were 2 levels of grants. Micro grants were up to $500 and the larger grants were up to $5,000. And there was a little money left over, so we just did a second round of the micro grants that were due the end of last month. And I think it went reasonably well because there seemed to be very little blowback of anybody being upset or angry, so that's always a good sign.
In this town?
In this town. So, and just to let you know, the Economic Development Committee was formed last March, April,
Yeah.
something like that. And basically through the summer into the fall, we met on a weekly basis. So it's a little less now, and like everything else, I think everybody's.
And you're losing your sponsor, you're losing your adjunct.
Liaison.
Dan Hort, your liaison.
Yes.
Because it was his idea, right?
I don't know. That I don't know.
Yeah. it
That
was
I
his-
know.
it's
But
his
David
baby.
David Panagor sits on,
Picked it up,
in
yeah.
on
Yeah,
probably the
I'm
majority
sure he'll
of the
take the
meetings.
reins.
So again, if anybody's ever interested, we typically meet at 3 o'clock on Tuesdays. So, and I know Jay had mentioned, like, I think the whole process of grant development, without getting into details, was so much more work than you could have ever imagined to get it. But now at least there's a system, I think we've got it down so it'll go. And I think they were, seen as pretty successful. So, with the ability to hopefully ask for more money, because we only had, $25,000 to give out but it could be significantly more. So, so that's kind of it. And if anybody really has feedback or anything, or just wants to know more about kind of what the goals and missions of the Economic Development Committee are for the coming year, feel free to talk to me or just come to a meeting.
And just to be clear, that is the Economic Development Committee that meets in Town Hall. This is an economic
Right.
development work
Correct.
group. It is different
Right.
from.
And the
what
whole
sits on
purpose of
both.
me sitting on both is to be the liaison, to make sure that both know what are going on with each other.
I just wanted to add that I know that you're doing follow-up to see what the impact of these grants was. And it was so well received by the finance committee, who even the more conservative members suggested that it really wasn't enough money to make it.
Really?
Yes,
Mhm.
and they would like to see
Another dear
what
diary moment.
happens with it in order to provide more funding, because this is exactly the kind of thing with the small businesses that really are the dominant kind of businesses here. I think that that's the kind of thing that the finance committee would like to get behind as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually at the EDC meeting yesterday, and because I was giving feedback on the process, because I was actually aware of
Oh, good,
the
you went.
application
Excellent.
process from the other side, because my husband was actually an applicant. So it was good to see that what I was trying to be extremely constructive in my criticism was generally well received. I think there was definitely an understanding that that there's a difference between an individual who applies for a grant and an organization like PAM or Center for Coastal Studies, and that perhaps in the second round, that's going to be taken more into account with a different type of scoring system or sort of quotas for different types of applicants, so that you don't try competing, you're not competing against, what is effectively a 100-pound gorilla when you're
An
just one
institution.
person.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you've never written a grant proposal in your life.
There was
So
also
that's
talk
really
about,
great.
coming out of all of that too, of maybe trying to start a, God, what was the phrase we used? It was like a fun, like a loan, like a pay it forward kind of loan. Cause, there, a lot of people, there's, when you apply for a grant, at least I know from college, you have your fairly lofty, organized presentation for your plans. And then there's also people who sort of just need help to get themselves
Seed money.
started, some seed money.
Like micro.
That's not exactly, yeah, it's like a loan, like a micro loan, rather like a grant in my mind is something that's sort of a little bit loftier. And then there's
And
like.
some of those are available, but
Mhm.
it's, again, people don't know that there's access to
Yes.
those.
Right,
There's
So I think
the
that-
CDC.
CDC.
right,
CD.
yeah,
Same thing.
Yeah.
because I think that would be a great thing too, for you to sort of
Yeah.
outreach for what
And that's
access.
one of one of the things that the
J.
economic
Cole
development
picked it up.
has actually done, is met with the what are they?
CDC.
CDP. And we're trying to actually even maybe have
Take
them
the
come into
development part.
this building and have an office in this building.
Nice.
Or at least be here like, one day a week, just for people.
Maybe the
to-
bike
That would
rides
be
would go
so
get a
smart.
loan.
Maybe
from the,
maybe the old community center could be used for.
Well,
yeah.
I was gonna,
Well, we want them soon. So,
I just wanted to ask, has anyone ever used the term venture fund? And I'll tell you why. I was in Highlands, North Carolina over the summer, which is a very high tourist area like we are, with a lot of high net worth individuals, which I want to get into in a little bit, in your new business area, who are now funding new businesses. So in other words, a craft brewery has 31 investors that come from the community.
You're talking about like angel
Angel
investors from
investors.
the.
It's a combination,
Yeah.
it's
Venture
some of
capitalist,
it,
angel
you'll
investor.
see a craft shop and it'll have 42 investors, and you'll see a restaurant that'll have 36 investors.
Sounds like a
And it
GoFundMe
just-
localized.
Mhm.
Yeah, and what they did was they were matching the people who had second, third, fifth, seventh homes, which sounds vaguely familiar, to people who were looking to now break out of an economic cycle and start their own business.
Where is this in North Carolina?
Highlands, North Carolina.
Highlands?
Highly progressive part of North Carolina.
Wow.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, that part.
Yeah.
The non-bathroom part.
Yeah.
There's a lot of non-bathroom areas there. But it was very interesting to me, and I just was wondering if that's been explored and
No.
maybe
it
we
has.
tap into the
Has it?
local community.
I'm sorry, can I just break in?
Okay.
Michael, can you say your name and talk about your, why you showed up today? I know you're involved in a project, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, my life and business partner and I are in the process of transitioning full-time here. in
Michael
Provincetown.
Kelly, by the way.
Michael Kelly, yes, thank you. And we have a TV production and branded video content business in New York, LA, and Las Vegas.
Are you
And-
looking to invest some money? Because I got some ideas.
Well, I mean, certainly we can, I don't know about the money yet, but we're investing in our business as well. And in fact, I'm gonna expand it here in the coming year, for sure. But there's a lot of reasons why we are transitioning here. And, you know, maybe helping with some of the media side and some of the things we're talking about, we certainly can do almost immediately. And we will be making a donation to Provincetown 400 by way of media through some of our TV properties to help build awareness that this is where the Pilgrims first landed. But why I'm here today is because I was pointed in this direction. We're starting a grassroots efforts called First Home Provincetown to help convert people who are like us to make this their virtual employee or headquarters, because we can. You know, we have 3 flights a day, even during the winter. The bus is a very interesting transportation. We have this amazing high-capacity Wi-Fi line that I know nothing about, but I'm trying to learn about, that the Sea Glass Inn apparently just tapped into, and I live in the far west end, and I go through mega bits of data every day looking at video, because that's what we do, but we're now running our company from here. In fact, I'm looking for office space. But anyway, that's my reason for being. And I, you know, want to see us become a diversified economy, year-round economy. And my partner and I have 3 children, and this is an award-winning school system. You know, so there's a lot of benefit to be here, and we now have companies within a stone's throw. I was with Liberty Mutual last night in New York having dinner, and they're very interested in the fact and had no idea this is where the Pilgrims first landed, and that we should be doing things for 2020. And they said, where can we go? And I go, well, hell, let's paint the fence at First Landing Park and then go from there, you know? So anyway, that's, I mean, not to go on, but that's my reason for.
Is this
trying to
venture
do-
capitalist thing, is it a, did you gather in North Carolina if that was in some way organized by the community? Or was it a business organization like that, the matchup?
It really
like that?
started as a grassroots effort.
Uh-huh.
You know, it really started around the craft brewery business, which sounds sort of crazy, but because they have such great natural resources there
Right.
with water and falls and everything, they really opened it up in North
Wanted to
Carolina.
harvest that.
They were one of the first states to say, okay, we're gonna go hard into craft brewery as a way to diversify. And so, you know, a group of people said we're gonna start one, and they went out to 31 friends who had money, and they all they all invested $10,000 each. And they were able to start this business, and that then went to a restaurant that found 42 investors at $7,000 each. And suddenly it's
That could
become
go
very
fund
formalized, and I've just thought about it, and toying with names, is the Provincetown Venture Fund.
You know,
And it could be, and also that has another very important ingredient just to mention, is that we have a lot of very wealthy people here
Yes.
that are not as attached to the community as they could or should be. And I think if they just had a little bit of awareness, and there was a little bit more of a formal process to take this grant
And if they were
effort,
asked.
yeah.
just ask,
No, but
and present a business
We're trying to
plan.
get their money for housing, but this would be okay too.
We talked about doing a REIT.
I have an
also.
idea on that too, but.
Doing a REIT basically along those lines, but I think this is great for.
By the
Well,
way, just for the audience,
doesn't have to be
REIT is a
just
real
real
estate
estate.
investment trust.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
We
I
got
know,
to
but
I
our
love
data-
this
So is
idea.
this?
Yeah, this is an investment.
Social capital ventures?
Yes,
Yes,
it
This
is.
is so
So it's not just donating
It
it.
is.
Okay.
one of the reasons why this town is right for it is because, as you know, well, you may not know because you're relatively new here, has been a, what can I say, a rather difficult relationship between second homeowners who have formed their own organization and the town with regards to residential exemption bylaw that was adopted by the town, and certain second homeowners feeling like somehow or other they give so much money, and they do, to the nonprofits here, and that they were offended that they should be saddled with more of the burden of the tax base, which is really
It was
what
tense
comes
before
down
that.
to.
Yes, that's right.
No, no,
There's
no,
been many
no,
reasons.
but they are, but those same people are looking for a way to contribute, and I think they would be willing to, and
Yeah.
in terms of
An
the
investment.
housing as well, and they don't have to get huge returns, but in terms of also economic development, because
Well, there's other incentives, and David and I have talked about this because I've met with him. that there's other incentives that we can do. I mean, if someone has a 5,000, listen, there's two dichotomies in this town demographically. We have young families. I mean, I have 3 children, and my youngest is 12. And so there's a lot with gay marriage, the next advent is having children. And a lot of my friends are having children. I mean, I'm 52 years old.
Babies.
I'm not gonna have another baby, but I'll tell you, I applaud those who are. And, you know, we have a great school system. And then you have those people who are in my age bracket, who are thinking about, and they all live in my community, who are thinking about retirement. And where are they gonna go in the next 5 or 10 years? And to recruit them to come here and bring their wealth here, and to bring their awareness here, and to bring their investment here, is, I think, our future. On both sides, you know, having young families thrive, and with Wi-Fi, I mean, I run my company from computer and phone. I can be anywhere in the world, and that's what we decided. Where do we want to live? And this is where we chose to live.
Yay.
So,
That is great.
Yeah, that's one of the main ones.
Yay.
Environment, because there are a lot of people
yes.
who work as consultants or whatever out of their homes, and to have a shared workspace where they could have a 3D printer and lots of other kinds of gadgets and
Conference
tools,
rooms, a
and a
place to
conference
just
room
go
where
be
they can
able
just
to,
collaborate.
some people on
Coffee.
vacation. I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
people on vacation that are, you know, just looking for a conference room for 2 hours. That would gladly pay for it because they need that quiet space away from kids or friends or all the craziness that goes on when you're on vacation. I was with a friend of mine who's now vice chairman at GE, and I was toying with her with the idea of, why don't you take, among your 800 employees, you're relocating to Boston,
That's
take
right.
a GLBT set and put them here. So you become the digital workplace of the future. So, you know, she's like, that's a really incredible idea, how do we advance that? And I go, I don't know, I'll figure that out at 2 a.m. when I have time. But, you know, those are the kinds of things that I'm personally interested in seeing us do and making us be progressive.
Great, great
Just
ideas.
a quick thought for you, just because there's, pretty much every state has something called it's called social enterprises. And every state, and I think they're the one in Boston, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically nonprofits that help state companies that are trying to do good business and help the community on the nonprofit and for-profit level. And they would know all these models. So even if, because they're all really connected, even if it's not a good model in state, they would know what it is in state. And just so you know, one of the things we've been talking about, the Economic Development Committee in general, is the idea, and Gloria and I have been talking about, is the idea of getting the shared workspace. Exactly, so these people have somewhere to go. And, you know, to try to develop a shared workspace, not just for business people, but also for artists.
Sure.
Because that's part of economic development, is the artist side of it. But also, you know, the ones that I think have worked really well that I'd like to see here is an idea of a cross between the shared workspace and a kibbutz, where it's part of being part of the shared workspace is part of your time is to help other people, so you have a level of skill that other people don't have, so you bring your level of skill to people in the kibbutz workspace.
Community center would be great for that.
Absolutely.
Even, I mean, I don't know what the capacity is of this building and how
It's
many of these
underutilized.
rooms sit empty during
Yeah.
the day. But anyway, so that's a discussion that's going on.
But two final thoughts I'll have just on the affordable housing issue. So many, you know, we get upset about so many houses sitting underutilized, you know, even though they're someone's home. You know, we can't, whether it's a second or third home. But I feel confident that if we had more people here and they were aware of the affordable housing issue, because a lot of people just aren't, they choose not to be. Maybe incentives can be put forward from the town. They rent out parts of their homes, and they are getting older. And it's nice to have someone there who can help you take care of things and have companionship and friendship and.
We do have that.
Well, yeah,
It's
that
called
exists
accessory
already,
on
yeah.
that.
Right, that
Yeah.
needs to be
It has been,
further
yeah, it needs to
exposed.
be, it
Yeah.
needs to be promoted more, because it is true, we got these 3,000 square foot houses with 2 people who are there for maybe 4 months a year, maybe,
Bigger in certain parts of town. Bigger
Well,
houses.
I wish we had bonds. I wish
Anyway.
Provincetown had
Yes, bonds, like a dormitory authority or bonds.
Yeah,
or
well, then you could,
everything.
people could donate and have bonds that were, you
Yeah.
know, you could invest in Provincetown bonds And you could stipulate if you wanted it to go for, you know, economic development, or if you wanted to go toward housing, or what have you, and that there would be a framework in place so that you get a very low return, but you eventually get your money back, you get a tax write-off, all those things rich people like. Well, except for low return.
Yeah,
I try to get no return, that's what I aim at.
the whole point of a government issued bond is lower rates but guaranteed return.
Yeah, right.
That's the
And I
whole
feel like
point of
if
it.
Provincetown could create, you know, PBA, Provincetown Bond Authority, it's like they're, but it's like the housing funds, that you're already kind of, that's
Doesn't
the
the
idea.
state already do that, and can't the town participate in the state bond fund?
We
I don't know about that.
I have a question.
It's a separate idea, but
Sure.
I think it's a good one.
So the first home Provincetown, can you just talk about that group a little bit?
Well, it's really a grassroots
Yeah.
effort that my partner and I
And your
and Cass
partner's name is?
Benson, what's that?
What's your partner's name?
Mark Berryhill. And so I actually brought some cards that I just had done. We started just a Facebook page, basically to talk about the benefits of making Provincetown your year-round home.
Have you spent the winter here?
Oh yes, I've been here for 8 years.
Oh, good, okay.
So, I mean, I've been here in terms of, you know,
Just-
second home
So
for
you
8
vetted
years, and
yourself a
then
little bit.
really primary residence
Well, 'cause
larger than last
we moved
year.
here 3 years ago, where we worked virtually, my husband and I, and we thought, oh, we'll be the newbies for 2 years or something. And within that winter that we moved down here, 2013, 2014, there must have been 20 more people move in the winter, which blows it. Oh, you guys moved.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
And so, and it's primarily, it skews more towards couples, 40 plus, second, third, you know, go around in their career, or trying something different, but it's doing the math and saying, gee, if I could live anywhere in the world, where would I live?
Exactly.
And-
It's exactly the phrase my husband and I use.
Well, this is
Billy and I do.
the first thing that we're gonna do
I wanna talk
is
about
it's an
shit.
informational session. The Sunday of Memorial Day, when we think a lot of people will be here,
Every
for
day.
just an hour, after church time, 11:30.
And did you say
At
Cass is involved too?
Cass is involved, Mary Alice is involved.
Great.
We're doing the first informational session at Harbor Lounge. It'd be great to have a representative from Provincetown 365 there as well.
Or multiple.
David was gonna be there representing town, we're finding someone else, he's going on vacation for the first time since he's joined, so, which he deserves.
Sounds like it, yeah.
But we wanna talk about the very thing that you just said, almost the agenda follows the process we went through.
Right.
Which is, economically, where do we wanna live, where can we contribute, where do we have great lifestyle, where are there good school systems, is there a good transportation system, which there is. I mean, I can leave here at 6:30 in the morning and be in LA by 10 o'clock. You know, and that's, yeah, well, good is a
You
relative
have an extra
term.
broomstick?
No, we do have 3 flights a day under permit. And I will tell you this, one final thing I'll tell you is, there was a desolate winter weekend that Mark and I were driving down Commercial Street, which is always our want when we come back in from New York, as we just started Commercial Street,
Yeah.
go all the way down to the end from Mark,
like
just to see
Christmas.
what's
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on. There were 25 businesses open. You know, and that was a real statement to us, that this has got the potential to, and then when Canteen announced we're never gonna close again. I mean, that's, I hope that's true, but you know, point
Right.
being is, so we're just gonna do a very brief hour, we're gonna record it, we'll have it on our site, and people will be able to go on and say, well, where can I go? We have friends that are orthodontists in Connecticut, and they're thinking about opening up another practice here. You know, and they have a young baby they just adopted, so that's the perfect kind of, you know, family that we want to get, and then we'll start to invest in housing and maybe in a public-private partnership and economic development.
In addition to money, it's the gray matter that they bring too.
Yeah.
The different people, that we,
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I don't think we tap into in a community as much as
That's right.
we should, is the
Oh,
sheer
amazing.
genius and creativity. And Jay said this
And
at the last,
connections.
meeting, and sometimes, I know nothing about fishing, but sometimes people who know nothing about a business can help look at it in a completely
Yes.
different way and bring their creativity into
Very
it.
true.
I started a fragrance company and nothing about fragrance.
I would just like to say one thing. I really like what you're saying. And I might as well say it to you now because you knew, and you might as well hear, you know, what rumblings.
Jennifer.
Should I turn off the camera?
Jennifer,
Very nice.
turn off the camera.
She seems very nice. And very respectful. I've been observing.
I'm sure it's not anything that you haven't thought of, you know, yourself and all, but I love the idea of having second homeowners become, that have this become their primary residence. I love that. Anything that you could do to help people, and you're very persuasive and articulate, and I think that that's a marvelous thing. I'm also concerned, you're like, but, I'm just concerned about putting too many of our eggs in the, let's bring fabulously wealthy people here to let people know, like, come to Provincetown and make your life here. I worry about San Francisco, about like the tech kids coming and jacking up the prices and everything and changing the culture. I'm a little, one of those people that you're like, daughter of Provincetown, no, they don't want anybody new. And that's not true. I just only want like a few new people. You're good, yeah. But I think one of the main efforts, a lot of us in this group, in this group, and then just in town in general, a huge effort is retaining people who have been trying to make a life, who have made a life here or been trying to make a life here, and are being forced out by different financial circumstances.
Absolutely. Well,
So that would just stress that.
Remind me of your name again?
Jennifer.
Jennifer, great, Mike. You know, I've totally thought about that, because I'm one of those people who's just extremely aware, and I have a lot of ideas on the affordable housing, okay, and which I can go through ad nauseum, because I want to solve that, almost above all else. My hope is, though, like Mark and me, we're not changing our home.
Mm-hmm.
There's no saying, okay, we're gonna sell that smaller house and buy a bigger one because I do that.
That's your home.
That's our home, and now it's our home, and our next door neighbors are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
They're nearing retirement, they're not gonna change homes to drive up prices. My hope is, though, actually, that they'll realize, wait a minute, maybe I can partition off some of my house
Right,
and rent it.
That is
And we
definitely a
start
goal
to
of ours,
solve
yeah.
an affordable housing issue from the ground up.
And that's-
If you could
What she
chase
was
off the
talking
second
about.
homeowners who only want to be here for 2 weeks out of the year, and replace them with people who want to transition.
Well, they clearly won't come to a
Yeah.
session like this. I'm hoping it's that
Well, you
young
never know.
orthodontist who has a new
Seriously.
baby, or
Right.
that 62-year-old, executive at GE that's thinking about, maybe this is where I retire.
Don't automatically dismiss the second homeowners who are just condo owners and who would just come here for 2 weeks and rent it out for the rest of the season. A lot of
If
those
they rent
people
it
have
out.
never done the math.
Yes.
And when you sit down and start doing the math and suddenly realize, I already own that piece of real estate, and if I got rid of
Yeah.
my home in the city,
Right,
and I wasn't paying a mortgage on two
Yeah.
places anymore,
exactly.
and this offers me all of that, and it's no longer just a community for the 3 weeks out of the summer that are
Exactly.
really fun, and maybe I could actually do this. So don't count out the second home condo owners out of the equation entirely. I think a lot of those people are ripe for the picking because they already have 1 foot on this ground.
Right.
And it's a lot easier to convince someone who already owns something here to stay here than it is to convince somebody from New York or Connecticut or Rhode Island to move
Right.
here.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
These people are already here, and frankly, the less churn that we get in the condo market, the slower the prices will increase,
Right.
which is, I think, everyone's goal.
Which is, you were already here, that was, you
Yeah,
you
you've
said
been
you
right
were
right
right here.
Yeah,
so
but we
you
gave
already
up
knew the
our
community.
condo in New York City,
Right.
to that.
Because you
very-
did the math.
We did the math,
And
and,
that's what we
we
did.
have a business that we're trying to grow, and we
Yeah.
said, and we want to be where we enjoy living here.
Right.
So it was a lifestyle choice, it was an economic choice, it was a family choice. It's where do we want to be for the next phase of our life?
Well,
Choice.
welcome. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming, and thank you for being an example of people we hope we do get more of.
Could I just add one thing, because I'm gonna be the second person who's sort of with you. The business is, like, when I look at Farm to Table and Dr. Dish and all the exciting ventures that are actually happening with Ocean Approved and Green Wave and whatever, you need working people.
Right.
And I can tell you right now that of our fishermen, there's probably maybe 1 or 2 that live in Provincetown.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about, this whole thing with affordable housing is like a wheel that needs to balance itself out with economic development. You
Yes.
can't talk about
Yes.
these things
No.
unless you're
Yes.
bringing in jobs
Right.
too,
Right.
that people are gonna work in. Like if you're talking about shared spaces for working, that's great if people are digital arts collectives and whatever, but if they're teaching young families to actually become part of a digital arts elective, to perhaps maybe work virtually from here out, then they have money to be able to live here. And there's always, one of the things that I think is really strange about fisheries is I know at least 6 fishermen that have left the Cape to be trained in science, okay? They're not fishing. There are no science jobs available for them here. I mean, if you look at Cape Cod, the park system, they hire everyone from outside the country to come here. Whereas you have fishermen who actually have gone away to university to get master's degrees. Owen Nichols is a perfect example. And there's
nothing there for
literally
them.
no way for them to actually make, so I guess what I'm saying is all these great ideas blended together, like vertical aquaculture is a great idea. A university coming here that actually does train to actually implement and incorporate marine policy and science into what you actually have as an ocean economy as well as a digital economy. That all has to be decided community cooperatively, consensus-wise, and it's dangerous a little bit when it all becomes the people with the money who can make the decisions.
Well, but let's remember, they're also, and I haven't thought about fisheries, so let me have a chance to do that. And you're opening my eyes, which is great. There's also a number of people who are boards of directors on corporations, nonprofits, educational institutions who have second, third, fifth homes here that could be those educational institutions we bring.
Although I would say, if we start having a fifth homeowners association,
And secondly,
I'm raising the taxes on those fuckers.
secondly, I got, there's a Goldman Sachs partner who lives across the street from us. And I just asked him the other day, okay, in your US government settlement, you have $280 million that's gotta be apportioned to affordable housing. How the hell do we get a portion of that here? Okay.
Well, it sounds like we've got a
those
good
are
one.
the-
That was the first thing I
It
thought
should
of
be
when I read that
pointed
article.
to the people who live here, who sort of live here anonymously, and say, I'm sorry, you're with Goldman Sachs, and you've got all this money, who do we talk to?
Yeah.
We know you're not in control of it,
Yeah.
but who is a person that is doing it? And that's our right as citizens to ask that question.
Yeah, that's a good
So
idea.
we can get a portion of
To
it
get a
here.
dialogue.
Right.
And say, how do we get affordable housing to keep people here who are, because I want to hire people that are new out of college who are going to make $34,000 a year that frankly can't afford to live here. And so I'm thinking about that, maybe not in the same industry, but very much in the same economic
Oh, I
bracket.
think fishing and arts are.
Oh,
this,
absolutely.
Okay.
Are you, Shira, are you done with your wrap up?
Not quite, but I wanted
I don't know
to.
if I did
But I would say yes for the most part. There was only one other thing. I wanted to just ask Michael something quickly while Michael is on the hot seat. Just the question about.
I've been there before.
And I'm asking this completely as an outsider, not in venture capital. Do you think that using the word venture, which I think for some people in this room says San Francisco, the hairs go up in the back of your neck, we're in trouble here.
For profit, massive profit.
Do you think the word venture, so I'm just saying for
Right.
PR purposes, anything with the word Provincetown and venture side by side in it might get the hackles up of some people
Sure,
around who
sure.
don't like the class that is coming in fifth home, fourth home, etc. So just a suggestion, but it may appeal very much to the people who have capital to spend in ventures. So I'm just wondering whether,
Well, I love the
You-
micro word, by the way,
The
because that's what we're
micro.
talking about. It's more, venture capital, you're right, it's typically like
I'm
$200
just a
million.
little scared about the venture
$40 million.
capital thing.
But maybe it's micro investing.
Maybe.
You know, or
Investing I like
something
wonderful.
That's,
Venture I get a little nervous about.
and also
Maybe
micro,
even 3D fishery.
So the last thing that I want to say that actually was quite consequential at the Harvard Gateway Economic Development meeting was that Rich Delaney from the Center for Coastal Studies has the town in town meeting approved money toward a feasibility study for a Stellwagen Bank Visitors Center that would be a NOAA-sponsored, the National Oceanographic Administration sponsored visitor center on one of the piers in town.
Yay!
And it is a wonderful thing. And if you take a look, he did mention locations in Key West and in Monterey. And if you want to look online to see what those places in Key West and Monterey look like and what the work is that they do in those towns, you will see. And I think that Rich did say that it is, and many people have said, it is ours to lose.
Yes.
That belongs here. We send boats into the Stellwagen area constantly, every day, full of
What do
tourists.
we need to do to show our support?
So,
Well, we already did it in the sense that the town
right.
voted.
The
to
town
do it.
did.
Feasibility study is being.
Are they scheduled to be before
Is that enough? She said
FinCom
flowers?
sometime soon,
No,
Louise?
it
Or
was-
it's already?
It's already passed.
It's
It's
already
already
passed.
Article
It's-
passed.
So
it's
he
done.
is now, right, so Rich, as I understand it, is now waiting for next steps. He needs a steering committee, and I know that he has
What's in the paper this week?
posted that he wants people for a steering committee. And, you know, good
You don't have to
ideas-
be a marine biologist to be on it?
You do not.
No, you're a
You do
visitor,
not.
a tourist,
He's-
anybody.
It's such a great organization, and it's another one of those that
And-
kind of hidden
I mean, if you
assets.
think about it, the affiliations, the Center for Coastal Studies, as we know, we have warm feelings about that,
International.
being affiliated with NOAA, being affiliated with the federal government, being.
I look at their weather all the time.
It is, it is all a good thing and something that we want to also lend our brains and efforts to.
Excellent.
So that was the other thing, it was a great meeting.
This was,
Thank you
This
very
was a
much.
great meeting.
so inspiring.
When do we meet here again?
In this room,
Us, yeah,
Well,
when shall we
the
meet
general
again?
and Gina came over and whispered in my ear earlier that the next scheduled meeting would be on June 8th at 6,
Oh, I can't do
which
that.
conflicts with the Urban
Urban
Land
Development.
Institute being here.
Oh,
So,
It's also my husband's birthday.
It's also the Marilyn McCoo concert, so.
Oh,
Ooh.
Marilyn McCoo.
So,
Okay,
Sounds
let's
go!
I already saw her, we just saw her 3 weeks ago, we're seeing her.
Oh my
my
goodness.
Oh, my
They're
God.
Macoubas.
So, other
That
options?
is cracking me up.
Gloria, would you make any recommendations for that? Because I'm looking at my calendar and seeing that other
what?
Wednesdays
For another date?
for this meeting.
About a Wednesday, a week later?
I
Second
know
Wednesday,
Gloria
second
can't be
first?
there.
Or an earlier time? I mean, I still won't be able to be there because I'm gonna be with the panel, giving them a tour and stuff like that.
What about June 15th?
Or we could have it, can we
Yeah,
have it
you
earlier
guys,
that
you
day?
could have it earlier and then maybe go to the thing at the Harbor Lounge.
If we could have it earlier. that's a good
5 or
idea.
5:30, I just can't remember which one
Okay,
it is. So
Well,
maybe
we'll shoot for
maybe that's
5 then.
Wait, that's.
No, no, no,
yeah,
that's when
but
that
that's
thing
what they
starts.
said.
Oh, so
I
earlier
think
than that?
it's at
Yes.
5:30
What's the
instead of
Harbor
5 at the Harbor
That's
Lounge.
the Urban Land Institute.
Okay.
Would
So
anyone
we
come
met-
to a 4 o'clock meeting on a Wednesday? I don't think we'll get anybody there.
I will if I have to, but
I
I'd
can't,
rather
I have other committees on
What about June
that
15th?
Tuesday.
A week later.
June 15th.
It's still a Wednesday.
Why the HDC?
Is
So
that
it's a
Provincetown
little
Film
bit
Festival?
later? Like-
15?
Yes,
Yes,
that's
the
what it
film
starts.
festival starts that
Yeah,
day. I'll be at the opening for PTV.
That's not gonna
So,
Tuesday? I know, once we shift, everything, we just start
I
wondering.
don't have my work schedule yet, so I don't.
Tuesday, the 14th, then?
That's
how about the
wacky.
first?
What day of the week is that?
It's Wednesday.
Why don't we
Gloria
do
can't
one
be there
week
for the
earlier
HDC.
instead of later?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wednesday
later. I can be
before.
there for you.
You have it all.
Like
Okay.
6:30?
We're usually over by 6, I think.
So 6:30?
6:30 on June 1st? Anyone with objections?
6:30 on Wednesday, June 1st, going once?
She's finishing at 6.
Yes,
Oh.
and if anyone has any suggestions for locations, I want to try to start scheduling out throughout the summer to get us locations, because it's a bit of a, a running around to get a location effort. So if anyone has suggestions, send me an email.
This is kinda nice.
I was gonna say, if they're open for here, I would.
Yeah, we can get this, is
It's
always
just another
here.
empty room, we should fill
That's
it.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Let's
nice.
rent it.
We can't tear it down, we should use it.
We don't have to pay for it. I got the they actually emailed, there's an application you have to fill out to use this room. It's not like Town Hall where you just kind of say, can I have the room?
But they
But
don't
they've
charge
been,
you.
but
They
they've
don't
been
look
very
for your
helpful.
record, do
No,
they?
they don't charge us as a community group, so.
That's
But we do have to be out of here by 8, so.
okay.
Um,
Excellent.
So June 1st,
June
Wednesday,
1st.
June 1st at
June
6:30 is
That
the
means
next
an hour and a
meeting.
half meeting. And we didn't do so well at that at this meeting.
Well, we
Oh,
had
yes,
fun
I'm sorry.
talking though. We had fun
Okay.
though. We were going fast, like,
Okay, so let's do it.
we could have done this in an
We got
hour if
started
we got interested.
Well, and plus we got our new business in with Michael, so.
Yeah,
Yes.
we got a lot done.
So, so that's our next meeting. I guess that's it.
Yay, I moved to adjourn.
Very good.
Second.